What up, everybody? For me, one of the best parts about the Power storyline going into Legacy is all the open threads from both Book 2 and Force that the writers could tie back into the storyline at any time. And one of those open threads is Detective Don Carter after he was arrested at the end of the Ghost series for the murder of Kamal Tate. And at this point in time, there was a couple clues given to the viewer that we haven't seen the last of Don Carter in the Power universe. The first being when Carter was getting arrested by Nico Halston in front of Tariq, and Don Carter looked at Tariq and told him, "This ain't over." When Tariq replied, "For you it is." Then after, when Drew got home, he told Kane and Diana that Carter will spend the rest of his life in prison. And Kane replied, "That's it? That motherfucker still breathing?" And Drew then tried to explain to Kane that for a cop, prison was worse than death. And at the end of the day, dealing with Carter the way they did might have even been the right move, because before revealing to Nico that Carter took out Kamal Tate, if they would have just killed Carter, that whole task force likely would have been coming for Tariq and them. But flipping Nico got Carter taken off the board, and Tariq ended up getting police protection instead of Carter's task force trying to hunt him down. And like Drew said, any evidence that he had against them would be discredited. So even though Carter knows things like Tariq killed Zion, Diana killed Felicia Lewis, Drew's 2 murders when he was locked up, and whatever dirt he would have on Nico, because he has no hard evidence of any of these crimes, it would all just be considered hearsay. It would only hurt Carter's case by making him look that much more dirty if he was involved in all those crimes. So because of that, throughout Carter's trial, I feel like he will maintain his innocence and that he's clean, even after being convicted by filing an appeal, maintaining that he's clean and that he's been falsely accused and potentially even framed. And like I talked about in other videos, when it comes to Power Legacy, I think there will be about a 2 to 5 year time jump from the closing scene of Force to when Legacy begins. And when problems begin to bubble is when we'll re-enter the story. So that means by the time Legacy begins, Carter would have already been locked up for a few years as a former cop, probably having a hard time in prison, having to stay in solitary confinement or something for his protection. And while he's locked up, he begins to be consumed with revenge against Tariq St. Patrick, as it appears that Don Carter will be spending the rest of his natural life in prison for the murder of Kamal Tate. The same thing that was said about Ronnie Mathis in season 1 of Raising Kanan for whatever Ronnie was in prison for. But at the beginning of season 3 of Raising Kanan, that changed as Ronnie and I think what ultimately became 12 other inmates were all released from prison because it was revealed that the cop who arrested Ronnie was dirty. And a lot of his old cases started getting thrown out. And this is when Don Carter's release comes into play, because we already know that the cop who arrested Don Carter, Nico Halston, is dirty, and he was the only cop on the scene when Carter was arrested, as he worked with 3 drug dealers to take him down as well. So after things go smooth for Tariq for a few years now, partnering with Tommy to take control of the New York drug game, things will begin to unravel, with one of the first dominoes that could fall would be Nico Halston getting exposed for being a dirty cop. Maybe Don Carter is even spending his time inside prison trying to make a move to expose Nico as dirty, knowing that would be his only way out of prison. Or maybe Nico is just careless in regards to something and ends up getting caught being compromised. Keeping in mind that the whole reason why Carter had to kill Kamal Tate in the first place was because he was protecting Nico after Kamal saw him kill a Russian in cold blood, then take the money. Then after Nico is found to be compromised, Carter goes ahead and has his lawyer file the appeal, and Carter ultimately gets released. Keep it in mind the only thing that connected Carter to Tate's murder was a bullet, and the chain of custody on that bullet was janky, considering at one point even Braden had that bullet when Nico arrested Carter. So at some point in Power Legacy, I think Nico will be exposed, which will lead to Carter getting released from prison in the same type of way that Ronnie and 12 other inmates were released in Season 3 of Raising Kanan. And after spending a few years in prison and being consumed with the thought of revenge against Tariq St. Patrick, Detective Carter will begin to make his move. But a big question in regards to this situation is if in fact this is how it goes down, could Carter actually get his job back with the NYPD, or will his past conviction, even though it was dismissed, prevent him from getting his job back? And now that Tariq is working with Tommy, another question to ask is if Don Carter knows who Tommy is. Because even though he mentioned James St. Patrick to Tariq a few times, unlike Zion or Mecca, I don't remember Carter ever bringing up Tommy Egan. But just like everybody else in New York at the time of Book 2, Season 4, Don Carter likely thought that Tommy was dead if he had ever heard of him. Then keep in mind how Don Carter got introduced to the storyline to begin with through Paz Valdez after the death of her son, Junior. So because of the fact that Carter was connected to Paz, it's a good chance that he also knows Tommy Egan. And because Carter knows Paz, that could also mean that he's also from the same neighborhood as Paz, Tommy, and Ghost, Southside Jamaica, Queens. And after Tommy returns back to New York and is revealed to be alive and Carter is released from prison, Paz could find Carter again, or maybe she even visits him in prison before he gets released and lets him know that Tommy Egan is back in town and he's who killed Angela, and also that he's working with Tariq St. Patrick. Then we could see Carter make it his mission to take down Tariq and Tommy's organization and make Tariq pay for putting him in prison. And I feel like Don Carter out of prison and off the leash coming for Tariq and Tommy would probably be their most formidable threat, whether he gets reinstated as a cop or not. And there you have it. Leave your thoughts, theories, and predictions in the comments.